Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we're going to be drawing some eyes. So let's do it. Today we will be drawing this eye right here, so feel free to follow along. If you don't fancy using this eye, then feel free to choose your own eye reference, and the tips I give today should help you to draw your own. Before we start, I just wanted to take a second to explain the different types of eye shapes. You don't need to know the names of every single eye shape to draw. It does help to know the main types, as there are thousands of variations of eyes. The main eye shapes you should learn are almond, upturned, hooded, monolid, downturned, and round. A good example of this is the fact that eyes can be more than one shape. For example, my eyes are a mixture of round and downturned, which is why it's a good idea to practice and familiarize yourself different eyes. I encourage you to use the chart and try to work out your own eye shape, and it will be interesting to know if your eye shape is also a mixture just like mine. In doing so, it will help you to draw an eye more accurately and show variety in your portraits. Depending on the angles in your photo, the way you draw your reference will differ, so you can't do the same structure for everything, but today I will teach you a simple rule so that you can tackle any eye shape. To draw eyes, you will always end up using straight lines, curved lines, and circles. These will connect to form planes, meaning a flat surface or shape that is a smaller component of something bigger. In this case, the plane of the whole eye is a small component that makes up part of the face, and in loose terms, a plane is a section of something. So I hope that makes sense. Right, let's break down this eye then. So the general rule for drawing eyes is that eyes are usually formed by a top and a bottom section, with lines in a ratio of 2 to 3 or 3 to 2 in some cases. Now, if the ratio part is confusing you, let me show you what I mean in this example. Here I have used 3 individual lines to form the top section of the eye. This includes the line for the corner of the eye. And then I have used a total of 2 lines on the bottom, a straight line and a curved line. So this eye has lines in a ratio of 3 to 2. If you look at the eye in the ratio parts as top to bottom, you can separate the lines up so it's easier to visualize. Then I have the circle shape to represent the pupil, paying close attention to its distance from the waterline, aka the bottom section of the eye. This helps me to judge the placement of it more accurately. So there you go, you've just identified the structure of the eye. I recommend visualizing these lines in your head first and try to look at people's eyes in day-to-day life in order to get used to recognizing these shapes, remembering to separate the eye into top and bottom parts, and 2 to 3 individual lines per top and bottom part. This will help your muscle memory and observational drawing skills. It's great practice, and if you want to upgrade your skills, you have to change your mindset and think like an artist. And then, of course, the rest is just practice. Now that I've broken down the structure of the eye, let's apply our knowledge to this example. I like to start by drawing an oval, as this maps out the placement and size of the drawing. Looking back at the reference photo, I can identify that my subject has roughly an almond eye shape. So because of this, we will draw the eye in a ratio of 3 to 2. But because I noticed the eye is a bit more round at the bottom section of the eye, we will use a curved line to complement our reference image effectively. At this stage, I'll go in and I will draw the corner line that meets our tear duct. When it comes to eyelids, nobody wants to stress, so we're just going to draw a curved line for this. If your reference image has makeup like mine, I'm just going to go in and draw that now. If you're unsure about how to draw the makeup, it's pretty simple. It's just looking at the shapes you can see. For example, for the wing here, I saw triangle shapes, so I used a triangle. To map out the pupil, I was again just looking at the distance from the waterline and the bottom of the eye. If you need to, just keep looking back and forth at your reference photo, that's allowed. And then again, I was just splitting the pupil up itself into different shapes I could see, not really focusing on any details just yet, just blocking things out. A lot of people find eyelashes really hard to draw, and I get that, but I've devised a simple rule to help me draw eyelashes. I like to start by mapping out little triangles or little squares depending on the shape of the eyelashes in the picture, and then this is just to box off where my eyelashes are going to go, not actually focusing on little details, because you can get really caught up if you start just drawing lines on, and then it will just look messy. So it's best to block it out this way first. I've also seen a lot of people use arrows as well, so if you wanted to draw arrows on in the direction of the lashes, that's also going to help you. Lashes tend to be very swoopy, so in order to make your drawing look three-dimensional, you're going to want to have them swooping in different directions, not all just flat straight lines, because that's not how eyelashes look. Also, don't be afraid to draw the eyelashes over part of the pupil on the top line, as I've seen a lot of people tend to go straight from the line as if the eyelashes are poking out of the eye, but that just isn't the case. That's not anatomically correct. Don't be afraid to draw over and cast a shadow over the eye, because eyelashes will do that. So to reiterate, the eyelashes should form small chunks on the eye, because eyelashes will tend to be in sections rather than just single. You want to have a mixture of chunks and then small individual ones. The next step is that I like to use my kneaded eraser putty over it, and then this helps to remove some of the graphite so I can go in with a coloured pencil. Here I'm using the Faber Castell Polychromos coloured pencils, just because I really like the way they look on the paper. They're nice and bright, and I think it just really helps. I use a red one particularly because when I'm drawing flesh, it really stands out. Okay, you just want to trace your drawing again, your sketch line that you did, but when it comes to the eyelashes, here's where I will draw the sections, but then I will also go in and I will add the chunks of the eyelashes and then some stray hairs, going in, drawing my creases in the eye and the eyelid. I also want to draw attention to the waterline here. The waterline is very simple. It's just a small groove and outline on the eye. I just think if you want to up-level your drawing and make it that little bit more realistic, it's always good to include the waterline, as everybody has one. Now that we get into the eyelashes, you begin to see how I use the shapes to now put individual ones in and make strokes. And notice how they're not standing alone. I will draw them in sections, just one at a time, focusing on the small sections rather than the eyelashes as a whole. This means that I'm not going in and just putting in a load of tiny details, and I'm paying attention to each section. Each triangle shows a different direction or shape that I've noticed from my reference image that the eyelash will go in. Occasionally I will swoop in little stray eyelashes because we do have some of them on our eyes, but for the most part, like this bit at the end, I will include a thicker looking eyelash where it's darker, because that shows that there's a group of eyelashes together. And again, going over the eye, not being afraid to step out of the boundaries of that line, because your eyelashes are three-dimensional. They will cast some sort of shadow over the eye, which when you think about it, it makes sense. So I'm just taking my time with these eyelashes, making sure to swoop in the guidelines I made. You want to be quick and fast when you're drawing the eyelashes, doing swooping motions, just quick, light touches of the paper. You want to have like a flicking motion at your wrist. It doesn't look like it from the camera angle, but it's really good to hold your pencil in the middle because it helps you have more control of the pencil, and you can really get that flowing flick in your wrist. Here's the examples of where I'm adding the stray eyelashes. And then going in with my eyelid, just 2 curved lines, maybe 3, to form a crease. So you can see how our initial sketch of blocking things in has now become a little bit more detailed, but it's still just a guideline. I'm very much of the mindset that you don't need expensive art supplies to make good art, so today I'm going to be using my Arteza Everblend markers, but you can use any material you want so long as it blends. So I always like to pick out my colours beforehand, and you'll notice if you're using alcohol markers like me, they tend to bleed, so I put a sheet of paper underneath. Now I do like to swatch my markers on the side, but I think it just looks very aesthetic, so that's why I do that. I start by laying down my base skin colour, and this is the colour that you see that is most prominent. So here, my reference photo had quite a peachy sort of skin tone, but it was also quite pale, so I just laid down this colour here. It looks quite dark, but when it dries, it goes lighter. So, and then you can see this is just something I also do personally. I like to blend it out into the edges because I like it to just look like a neat section of an eye. So that's why I do that. But just do whatever you're comfortable with. This is just what I've been practicing and what I like to do personally, is just lightly go to the edge. It's all about the amount of pressure that you put on the paper, depending on how light you want it to be. Then my model had eyeshadow, so I started going in with the darkest colour I could see. Again, this is all about paying attention to your reference image. So choosing the colours is all down to what you see. If you see a colour that you think is a shade, you can just try and match it as best as possible. Now with these markers, I did have quite a large colour selection, but I recommend that you allow yourself to have a large selection as well, because it just means you can get more tones in there. Again, just going in, blending out lighter shades of the pink to get that smooth gradient. Now I'm going back in with my skin tone colour, and I'm going over the pink that I've just got so that it blends out. And if you're a girly pop who does makeup like me, you will be familiar with blending out your makeup, so it's kind of like that, just with a pen. And I also want to say as well, there's no right or wrong way to colour either. This is just how I do it. So you can colour however you want, but this is just the way that I would suggest doing it that works for me. And if you want to get that smooth, dreamy look, this is how I do it. So I did end up making a mistake there actually with the blue. I went a little bit too far ahead. I don't know what I was doing there, but I managed to save myself because I just turned it into shadow at the end of the day. So just goes to show as well that mistakes can happen, but just own them basically. So yeah, I just coloured in a solid blue colour for the iris because we're starting off with minimal detail. Then I went in and I used a purpley colour because I noticed that there were like purpley grey tones in the eye. So I just placed that where I could see it. It's all about observation. If you think something goes somewhere, you just look at where it is and the relationship it has with other components that it's near. Then the eyeshadow had a bit of purpley in it, so I just went over with my purple, making it nice and lilac on the eye and blending it into the pink again. There's no right or wrong way to blend. There are obviously ways that can make blending feel more effective, but I think just going back and forth and blending with light strokes, you know, not applying too much pressure is probably a good way to go. And that's at least how I do it. Also making sure to find shades that are similar to each other. Notice how lovely these pens are, the fact that they have a double nib. How cool is that? It just makes my life with blending so much easier. As well, if you want to get your hands on any of this stuff, this isn't sponsored, but I will link it in the description. I don't actually know how many pens I used here, but I did have quite a lot. So then I was just going in with another pink because the more I looked at the reference photo, the more I realised the pink and the purples kind of blended together. You know what I mean about swatching on the sides as well though? Like, I have a personal swatch card that I made in front of me, but just swatching it on the page next to it is just so satisfying for me. So as you can see here, switching between different pens, making sure to keep using the base colour that I use for each solid colour and blending it out, and then going back to the skin tone colour and blending that out as well. The thing I also really love about markers is the fact that it doesn't take too long to dry. Then for this bit, I noticed rather than being pink, the waterline and the corner of the eye was more of a brown colour rather than pink, so I was using some browner tones for this. But that again is just about looking at the reference photo and seeing what looks right. And sometimes it will be that way, like you think that in your head, because we grow up and see that the corner of your eye is pink in like cartoons and stuff, but if you actually look, it can be different colours. And that is the beauty of colour theory. Like the whites of the eye there, I used a really light brown because it adds 3 dimension to the eye, and the eye isn't just a solid white, there are different tones of colour in there. I guess what I'm trying to say as well is pay attention to the different colours used. To add some shadows around the eye. No particular really shape for this, just making the eye more 3-dimensional and paying attention to where the eye sockets were. It looks dark until I blend it out, but these markers blend so incredibly well that you just wouldn't even know. I do love these markers. They do have some cons, which I'd probably talk about in another video, but for the most part, they are really lovely markers to work with. It really helps when blending the skin to blend in a circular motion as well. So then I was just going in and drawing the wing for the makeup. I just used the standard bright purple colour for this, like in the reference photo. Because it's a marker and it can obviously bleed and stuff, I like to just take my time and be as careful as possible. Now we go in with the eyelashes again. I want really thin line, so I was being very slow, very careful, brushing up. But the good thing about the marker is when you have clumps like at this edge, it's really easy to get the clumps to show, so that's always useful. Being really slow, taking my time, flicking upwards in different directions like we discussed earlier. This just blocks off the colour of them. Again, making sure to not poke the eyelashes directly out of the waterline, because you do not have eyelashes growing out of your waterline. I think that would be pretty scary and pretty traumatic to deal with if that was the case, so just remember that. I did go in and start drawing some little nodes on the top of them to make them look a bit more 3-dimensional, but yeah, they do not come up the waterline. Then I just went in drawing some of the crease again. Then I noticed there was a bit of brown in the eye and I forgot to pull that shade out, so I just went and got that now. I really love the way that these colours do lay on top of each other, so you can just blend them out super duper easily. As you can see, my process for this is pretty similar. You just put a colour down, take your original colour and just keep blending it out as you go. There was a bright orange bit in there, so my next part was to add that in, that I saw. Adding in that darker shade there. Just blending out that eye. Now we're going to do the tear duct again, but with a pinker shade. It's still on the brown side, but it's pinky. I just added a little bit in that waterline as well there. So now is the time where we really marry these two mediums together, or three if you will, because I'm using paint as well. And I was just using this brown pencil to sort of fluff up the edges of that pupil there, because we want it to be nice and smooth. That's just the way I work. I mean, you don't have to make it smooth, it's your choice. Depends on your style, but for me personally, I'm going to smooth it out. I might go in with the different shades of blue to add the tones in there. Then I go in with my grey tones of the blue eye. Some darker grey tones. I don't really have a method for this, by the way. I sort of like shade around the edges near the top of the eye, and then I blend in any other tones I see, and then the bits that really stick out to me, like little details, and I'll usually draw a line or like little curves or something. Then I outline the edge of the eye, making the outer edges darker. Then I use a bit of colour theory, and I like to use this like sage green to add shadows to the inner eye. Then I go with my purple pencil again just over the lashes to really make them stand out and define those ends a bit more, because the marker kind of doesn't really do that because it's thicker. I'll also add in any more straight eyelashes at this stage as well. Look at her definition, oh my days. For the pupil, I add a bit of blue and then I go in with my black, because I believe that the black always stands out more if you use other colours rather than just a solid black. That's just how it will be, guys, okay? That's just how it is. Then I went in with my Posca and added in where the highlight should be, and I don't like to leave it this way because basically I was told that Posca pens were really good, and then I went out and bought some and I actually tried them, and this might be an unpopular opinion. I know loads of people love Posca pens, so please don't hate on me. But I don't know, when I'm using them for highlights, particularly the white ones, they just don't stand out to me. They're not as opaque as I'd like. So when it comes to the highlights, I'm gonna be using paint today because the highlights just don't do it for me with these. So yeah. Then I go with a black pencil and I like to define the ends and the top of the lashes, just because, again, it makes them stand out more. Have you seen, like, just how much more detailed that this drawing is looking already with just the pencils being added? And it's about to get better as well, guys, like... blending out that pink there, because she has more pink eyeshadow that blends out into the corners. Then I use this ivory colour because I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure you guys know what I mean. But when you're doing makeup especially, like, her face is powdered, okay? This ivory colour achieves that. She is powdered. Then a cheeky little tip here. Oh my days, all the tips. You guys are getting all the knowledge. Like, I hope you guys enjoy this. All the knowledge. I found if you put some paint on some tape, then fold it over at the end so you have a little tab and stick it to your desk, not only does it save on washing up, which I know as artists we all hate, it's also like just really accessible, and then when you're done you can just throw it away, and especially when you're not using a lot of paint, it's just, it's a great tip. So yeah, as you can see, I'm really going in with the details here. I'm just using my paintbrush to add in the details of the glitter, which again, here's another tip. Oh my days, I have metallic paints, right? And you guys will see in my other videos, I love using my metallic paints. Love them to death. But this job does not require metallic paints, okay? Listen to me when I say this. I know loads of people will take the shortcut and use metallic paints as paint glitter, which totally fine, you do what you do. But for me, this, if I were to use metallic paint on this or my metallic watercolors, even worse, blending in with those markers, it would ruin the piece. So do yourself a favor. If you're doing glitter, just learn how to paint glitter. Glitter is not that hard. You just do teeny bits of stippling. I think that's the word, stippling, stippling, I don't know. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to get at. And yeah, you just want to add little tiny dots to represent the glitter. And then this bit right here, this is my favorite. This part right here is where you add bits of white to the ends of the lashes, and oh my gosh, it just gives them volume. They look so shiny. The lashes are lashing. And then I go in with my white again and I just add in these little highlights in the eyes, and I love it so much. It's the best. Once you've added your highlights, your eye is done. And yeah, this was such a fun process to film. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave me some comments and feedback down below. I would love that. All the supplies I used in today's video will be linked in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed, and follow for more tips and tricks. Bye bye.